So I think we're live now. Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for this panel. I think we'll start by introducing everyone. I don't know if everyone has the same grid, like is Jona on the top left for everyone? So maybe we can start by introducing everyone as we are,
Okay, I am Jona Derks. I'm from the platform QUDO. We aim to get Web2 games into Web3, and we believe it's not about the technology as sort of the central feature, but it's more about enabling game developers to easily integrate blockchain into their games. And this is something that's especially interesting now for smaller game developers that are looking for extra ways of earning money because when the games integrate our tool, players get our token QUDO and they can use it to buy things or to purchase things in game, get additional features, things like that. And that way, we are creating a bigger ecosystem where it will slowly but surely gain a stronger foothold. And yeah, we're currently in over 30 games. We have many developers linked to it. Player-wise, we're still growing, but we're not on the mainnet yet. So we aim to do that in the next couple of months.
Thanks, Jona. Tolga?
Yeah, hello everyone. This is Tolga Ozturk from Funverse Games. I am the CEO of the company, and we are working on the mid-core games right now in the Web3 space. And we are just trying to bring together Web2 and Web3 mechanics at the same time within a new kind of new generation MOBA. And in short term, this is it. Thanks so much.
Dan?
Hello, guys. I'm Denis. I'm a co-founder of DAO Builders. It's a consulting agency which helps Web3 projects to scale up and grow bigger, as well as helping them to decentralize the government and adopt DAO mechanics, get into Web3 marketing as well. And also, I'm a co-founder of one gamify project myself. We are building a decentralized poker game based on various decentralized mechanics.
Thank you. Did I get it right? Are you trying to decentralize government?
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Thank you. Matt?
Hey, thanks for the invite. I'm Matt. I founded Playgrid, but right now I'm kind of in between projects, going with something new and shiny, and that will be announced soon. But Playgrid was an airdrop engine, let's say. We're basically getting data from blockchain to find out real players and filter out bots and reward those players.
Thank you. So Dan is trying to decentralize the government, and you are working on the project you can't disclose. Okay, we get it. Nice panel here. Rytis?
Good morning, evening, everyone. I'm from Xsolla Labs. We're working on sort of a new product development when it comes into the gaming space. Xsolla is primarily a sort of a fintech payment aggregator processing company, but we work on new product developments, and we're currently working on primarily the Web3 space, helping companies digitize their assets and sort of looking at new enabling video game companies to monetize those assets, whether it's on reoccurring NFT sales, royalty payments, revenue share, all that fun stuff.
Thanks. And I'll introduce myself. I'm Eugene, and I work in Yard Hub Venture Studio. What we do, we are building Web3 projects in different genres. And I also work in a DeepMind company, which is a metaverse game. So I'm kind of working on NFT projects as well as non-NFT Web3 projects. So let's start with the very general question, like what's your take on what stage is the crypto market is now, and NFT market is now? What do you think? Because like a couple of months ago when we were talking, it was like rock bottom probably, and everyone was just like it couldn't get worse. And since then, I think especially since the new year, we've seen a lot of good markers in terms of crypto rising up. I think marketplaces have shown good numbers. What is your take? What is like the current? Do you think we're coming for the rise, or was it just like a positive moment before another crash? Who want to go first?
I can go first since I'm on the top left anyway. But I think in this case, I've been sort of in general saying to myself since I was in blockchain since 2013, it will get better. But first, it has to sort of stabilize. So what you saw was that there were these sort of companies that were suddenly collapsing, even making the situation worse. So yeah, what you kind of have to wait for, and I think we are having that now, is this period of stability. Like people are not going to pour their money in or expect something to suddenly go increase greatly in value, which is never a good motivator for the market. But also companies are not sort of ready to take the next leap at the moment. They need some more stability for it. But the stability is a very important thing that we've seen multiple times in the blockchain market overall. And it takes a while. But the thing for me has always been, if people still keep working on great projects, then those next generation projects will be there. But we will have the same cycle again, where people will, like, there's no regulation, so people can just wildly speculate on things, and things will be overvalued in the future again. So what we need, and we see that happening, is sort of a year-over-year growth. So of course, it seems like we went down sort of this very deep hole. But I think, like, if you compare it to how big the market used to be, we're still on a year-over-year growth, and also in the amount of gamers, for example, that go into this. But yeah, we've just seen sort of the nasty part of the market, where it's mostly marketing and no substance. And now all those players that were not really in there for the players, basically for the gamers, but also they were just in it for the money. Yeah, they overextended themselves usually, so they fail. And now it's time for the people that are here, that are building new projects like Playgrid, for example. But on to the next thing.
Dennis, you're
You're
muted.
muted,
Dan,
Dennis.
I think you're muted. Or maybe government has muted you. We don't know.
Oh, wow. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I think I can add something, because I don't think we are out of a bear market for now. And I think we will see like the real next bull run closer to Bitcoin halving next year. And this year will be quite volatile. So based on what is going on in traditional economy, I think that like the recession is slowing down a bit. So we can see like the uptrend in this year, but it's not like the real bull trend. And to sum up, it's now the best time to build rather than thinking about like the marketing and the market itself, because it will revive when it will be ready, and we have to be ready too. But I don't think that we will see like the major uptrend this year.
Yeah, and I have some words to say about it. Actually, I'm totally agree with Jona and Ben. We are at the bear market right now, but yeah, the market is going to be the better day by day. But this is a speculation, or is it a really legit bull market is blinking an eye to us right now or not? We will see it in a 6 month actually. So this is the time for us and also all the startups to create their products and to make it better, make it develop further, and also test it about to when the bull market came. We just need to go to the moon together.
I think, just to reiterate on Jonas' points, I think the market self-correction from the previous years, where there was an overinflation of overpromise and under-delivery on a number of projects, where it was just all market hype without any actual utility or any actual promise being delivered on, has caused what we call a bear market. But I think if we look at some of the figures from 2021, from the GameFi sector especially, where the investments went from 3.7 billion to 7.9, that is a good indication for the market, or those looking to build in the market, that the investment is there and it's slowly pouring back in. But it's obviously pouring back in at a more cautious pace than previously, where investors are now being more conservative perhaps in their ask or investments, and are being more cautious in questioning projects before they simply write you a check, versus back in a couple of years ago, you had a cool sounding idea. You mightn't have had the best Steam, but it sounded cool, and it sounded promising, so you got a check. So now it's becoming a bit more harder to raise, but the money is still definitely there.
Now they're writing these checks to AI companies that are trying to beat ChatGPT, right? Yeah. No, I think really like it's running in cycles all the time, always, and we're just part of the cycle. But it's not just crypto, right? It's everywhere. And we saw, for example, Facebook, Meta coming down 80% for companies such huge as Facebook. It's really like a very big move coming down 80%. Then again, like 2 days ago, it was up 20% just in a single day trading. I think there is a crazy volatility out there. But what I would really like to see is if the players remain in the industry, because before we saw a lot of number of unique active wallets and other indicators that were showing there is some interest in the games. But suddenly when the market went down, you could see that there was like 100K communities. And when a major announcement came, there was like 10 engagement on the post, and those are teams that have more like 25 people, and not even the full team was actually liking on the Discord post or Twitter. So I'm really like excited to see if there are actually really like players that are already favoriting some of these crypto games today over some of the Web2 alternatives, and that will actually keep playing the games, or they will just wait for the next cash bonus to come back.
That's a good point, and just a couple of my thoughts. I think it was mentioned, that we see much more caution from investors, and even what I've seen. A couple of years ago, everyone was talking about how Web3 is all about, decentralization and anonymity and stuff, and the amount of KYC right now, everyone is requiring is just like in your typical type of business. Like whatever you do, everyone starts with a contract, everyone starts with a KYC, because I think, where there were just excess of money in the field, no one cared because they knew 10 failed projects, the one will cover them all. And now it's a bit different. So now everyone is so much cautious. Okay, so let's move on to the NFT gaming market, because we kind of talked about the general market. I think what we've seen in the latest report of Deprater with the BGA, I think it's a Blockchain Gaming Association. They did a report at the end of the year, and they showed a graph of the active wallets in the GameFi field. And even though there was a peak, I think in April of last year, obviously, before the Luna crash and everything, but still at the end of the year, the amount of active wallets was okay. It was around 1 million active wallets, as it was at the beginning of 2022. So I mean, it slightly decreased, but maybe 10%. But it's kind of, it answers the question: is NFT game market still alive? It kind of shows that it surely is. But the problem is that it's not growing. I think that's something that might be problematic, especially if you look at the conventional game market, which is booming, especially with the COVID and people stuck in. Everything was just growing immensely. So my question will be what do you think will be the drivers that will bring, let's say, 10 million users to the Web3? Because there are some talks. Okay, PlayStation are doing something where you would have the digital collectibles, but not quite NFTs. And then you hear about Ubisoft doing something, but again, it's not NFTs because it's not on the public blockchain. So basically, yes. So the question is, what will drive next 10 million users to the Web3 projects, like the ones that are properly on a blockchain, not like a closed ecosystem? Maybe we can go the other way around. We start with Rytis. And I'm sorry, can you tell how to pronounce your name?
Rytis, it's all okay.
Okay.
So I think if we're looking at the sort of unique active wallets as a measure of activity within the GameFi space, we need to, and if we're saying it's unique active wallet users, then we have to ask ourselves our questions: what some of the barriers are that have been currently to date, and whether it's when it comes to GameFi space, whether it's the amount of transactions we can process when it comes to the NFT space or the blockchain space, and if that's a barrier. I mean, if we're looking at traditional Web2 games, there isn't necessarily a blocker that currently exists there from a transactional processing point of view, versus there is a blocker currently at the moment, the amount of transactions we can process per minute or per second. So I think that's a massive blocker. And then I think the other way if we're looking to grow that unique wallet number is to providing unique experiences, and maybe that's the introduction of those dynamic NFTs and those sort of new non-fungible tokens that react to different stimuli, whether it's who buys it, how you interact with the NFT, etc. So it's introducing those new elements into the gameplay to create those immersive experiences for players, and then to incentivize them into playing your video games, and then registering. And also, I think if we're looking just purely on a creating a frictionless access for players, both on creating wallets and accessing wallets, that needs to be addressed as well, I think, because if we're making it extremely difficult for players to access their assets, whether it's on different platforms, and if you need to, have 20 different wallets on 20 different video games, or whether you need to connect your MetaMask, that becomes a big issue. So I think companies that are looking to solve those issues will probably be at the forefront of enabling that trend to reaching 10 million unique active wallets.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I think this is really like this middle step, and I think that Immutable recently launched information that are going to build this like unique pass across more games, and I think this is really the way, because for the user it must be as easy as possible, as seamless as possible. So really, once Fortnite will start putting blockchain into their game without people actually had to drop off their Xbox or PlayStation console, that's the moment where the players will really like naturally go into the Web3 gaming world, and then suddenly they realize, okay, so I can, I don't know, for example, trade my assets for Fortnite with assets from League of Legends. How is it possible? And that's kind of like the moment and the use cases that are built around the onboarding of the masses, to me at least. But one thing I would like to point out here is really, to me, the unique active wallets, it's just such a myth, because it's really like difficult. At some point, you had this, for example, Crypto Blades period, where every player who was kind of like serious in the game had 20 to even like 200 wallets. And, they were farming every day, keeping track in Excels, just because they wanted to play for every account. So suddenly you have one player with like 100 of wallets. But on the other side, I think like still half of the unique active wallets is coming through VAX blockchain. And there the wallets can interact with the smart contracts, even without the user actually really being there every single game. It can be in form of NFT renting or other stuff. So I think that this is really like a not very good indicator, and I would like to see more companies, more of the bigger studios like Immutable, for example, publishing really like the data from their game, showing, okay, so these are really like the unique logins we saw by the players themselves, and then a step further, like, and how long did they actually spend in the game? Did they just log in to collect some daily reward and left, or was they really like playing the game at least for 20 minutes, 1 hour? I think we are still far from these kind of like indicators that will give us a better idea of how really the Web3 gaming looks like today.
And Dan, just before you come in, I just want to address what Matt was saying about the active wallets. I think there are a couple of points. First of all, I think a lot of ecosystems, for them it's one of the main points when they're onboarding the project. They're asking like, how many active wallets can you bring to the ecosystem? Because like even for our projects, we have seen a lot of people. It's funny, but a lot of people are going. How do you say it? They're not approaching the game from the front end. Some of the players just go straight for the smart contract, and they interact with the project through a smart contract because they see, okay, I can write this program that will optimize my performance. And it's how do you, because like obviously for your normal game, you can easily you have all these stats you need like in the game, how much people spend on which screen and stuff. But if people are interacting with your smart contract without even approaching your front end, how do you count their activity? So I think that's why it's still, I mean, like before we have other metrics, like other proper metrics, maybe that's why it's still a thing. Just
Exactly.
my 5 cents.
And these might never actually be a players, right? Because those guys that are actually going this way through the backend, as you mentioned, for example, or any other third-party tool that is actually enabling them this kind of behavior, they might be really just for the rewards, just opportunities, trying to get some airdrops, farming some items, some token, whatever, but they'll not really stay with the game as soon as they drop the rewards or something.
Or we will end up with the with the blockchains like Oasis. They have the Sapphire blockchain where half of the smart contract is hidden, and we will end up. What's the point of the blockchain if we hide everything, right? But I mean, like it is very much a thing. Yeah, sorry, Dan, for jumping in.
Yeah, if I would like to add something. As Matt said, I think we have like divide the audience and divide the players from, let's say, the gold diggers, because the major amount of the users, major amount of the, for example, the gaming guilds are basically the vampires who are trying to like exploit the game economy. And basically it's good for the ecosystem because the ecosystem gets more wallets, gets more transactions, gets more fees, and so on and so on. But for the project itself, it's basically really an exploit for the tokenomics and the ability for a couple of players with like that was said before, with 200 of wallets, and they are not players at all. They are not giving like the money for the projects, and they are not doing anything good. So first of all, we have to attract the real players, and to do this, we have to think about user experience, obviously, because right now the NFT games is quite easy for the people from the cryptocurrency industry, but still very hard to play for like the guys who don't know about like the Bitcoin, Ethereum, smart contracts, MetaMask, and so on and so on. And we have to like onboard these people to Web3 at first, and then we will gain more real players to such projects. And it's also very important to not let's say not create the projects that can be used as a gold mine. There has to be like the gameplay at the first place, and then we have to think about like the economy and the ability to get the coin from the project.
Thank you, Dan. I have also some words about that. Actually, on the gaming projects right now, the projects in the Web3 space are focusing the wrong way at the first stage, because on the Web3 space, there are not too much players right now. It's not enough for everyone. And to increasing of the monthly-based active wallet users, we need to Web2 users in this space. So to not pushing people to also forcing people to create their wallets or connect their wallets to the game is not a solution in this case. So I think to creating wallet and converting your assets to as an NFT, for example, should be an option. If we can give our players as an option, like a side quest, so they can also get familiar with it in a short time. We should onboard them to Web3 space to increase our users and also increase our wallets, actually.
Yeah, all interesting points. I really agree to sort of how difficult it is to use these games, like the functionality, like Rytis and Matt said, and also Tolga, and what Dan says about the gold diggers, that's really an issue. It's not about the fun, it's sort of about the money. So then it becomes work, and work is usually not fun. So yeah, what I think is that what is a possible scenario is that of all that invested money, there are some teams out there with really dedicated people that love gaming, that will create something new that will become really big and just pull players in because it's fun and they unlock all these extra functionalities that old games cannot do. But I do not believe like one of the big players will step in anytime soon. They will always be laggards. They will implement it when they really see the value of it. As you see now, like Porsche getting out these NFTs that were not all bought because they were so expensive, and there was no real sort of logic behind it. So it should really go down to the core of, does this make the game more fun? So yeah, for example, what we're doing is that we are unlocking these capabilities for game developers, because we don't think we are the ones that know best what is fun. We just know, like, we have these possibilities and we make it really easy. You work on your thing. So I think like more platforms have to come. It has to become easier. And yeah, this writing down words stuff, that's just madness. Like that you have to write down words to remember your wallet and stuff like that. People don't care about blockchain. Gamers don't care about doing any type of work. Like they will leave a game if they have to remember a password. So we have to sort of make this easier, and it will become easier. But currently, we kind of have to wait and see who does the work, and we're working on it, and I think everybody here as well. But there's still some way to go.
Yeah, thank you for your points. And I think Jona mentioned something. We have a question in the chat, and I think Jona kind of touched it on the surface. The question is, when do you expect mainstream games to start implementing NFTs? Because I think I briefly mentioned, that Ubisoft, I think one of their Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six games has this NFT mechanics, and I mean, like we see what I mean. Like it's everything is looking, very, very cautious. And I mean, like even the Ubisoft, that I think they had a blockchain department for 4 years, and then CEO comes out and says, "Oh, we're not committing anything. We're just kind of looking at the blockchain." So it just shows, that they are very cautious. I don't know. It's probably more to do with maybe legal stuff rather than because I'm sure that the guys who can make everyone pay, the kings of microtransactions, they probably can come up with the idea of how to make people. How to make money out of this business logic, but probably there are more layers that could be complicated. But the question is, when do you expect big AAA game studios, no matter 2K or I don't know, Epic Games, and I think Epic Games are quite friendly to the blockchain. When do you expect like big titles coming with and whether at all do you expect them to come? Maybe you think it's something that will never happen. When we will see NFTs in the AAA titles done by major studios?
So I think if we're looking at AAA titles, the only thing that they care about, or any sort of game publisher really cares about, is user acquisition, right? And if NFTs and these sort of digital assets could be utilized to onboard and acquire new players, and then incentivize new players to play the game, and also allow those players to take those digital assets outside of the game and trade them, or trade them with other players in exchange, and if it enhances the gameplay somehow, then you will see AAA titles begin to adopt them into their marketing campaigns, into their launch campaigns, but primarily for user acquisition. I think that's probably the sort of most low-hanging fruit for them. Certainly, it's what we've seen with some game publishers, where they will use NFTs and digital assets to attract players into their games, but not necessarily deploy a full sort of Web3 game, but they will allow sort of some Web3 elements of it, but not necessarily it becoming a full Web3 game.
Yeah, but at the same time, we've seen it, even with the World of Warcraft. How old is this game? Like 20 years. But there has been a huge market, for the gold. I think it was actually first play to earn game, because I think there were reports of hundreds of thousands of people in China alone just mining the gold in World of Warcraft to sell it, which is basically play to earn in its best. But they were never open to the idea of making a proper free market for their assets. There was always, I think it was a multi-billion market for both World of Warcraft and Counter-Strike, right? The skins from Counter-Strikes, but they were never open to make this a proper market, to get their share from the secondary market fees. They were always opposed to that. So like the question is, like, why do you think this time NFTs will be welcomed by them?
So I think if we're looking purely at the sort of monetization aspect of it, and if we're looking at what game publishers and why they're resisting the NFT sales or secondary sales, like you mentioned, Eugene. The question is simple from game publishers and developers. Why should I sell you an asset that can be resold when I can just sell you something that's digital and that's non-transferable? There's no interportability aspect to it, and I can just keep reselling it over and over and over again to the masses, right? And just continuously try and make money. So I think if as a community or as startups and companies in the Web3 space, if we can get game publishers and developers to come to understand the value that NFTs provide, both in terms of revenue generation and monetization, like you said, Matt, secondary sales, rental sales, and then if we're looking just at sort of persistent royalties that could be collected on those transactions and put back into the pocket of the gamer, but also the game developer or publisher, then it becomes more attractive for them to begin adopting NFTs, certainly within video games. But I think there needs to be a solution and a good round of thought gone into how we monetize and how those microtransactions look like for the game developers as well, because those guys need to continuously keep developing video games and improving the user experience within the game itself.
Matt?
I think that there are so many points around this, but the first I would say is that the truth is that pretty much the main driver for the NFTs and the blockchain is the financial aspect. And Eugene correctly mentioned what they built behind World of Warcraft. It's enormous, huge economy. And exactly, there are so many grinders pushing for the World of Warcraft specific currency, selling it on the eBay. And myself, I was banned 2 times by Blizzard because I was trying to sell my account. So I know very well what you're talking about. But for the studios, and that's again like Rytis' point, it's really about the users and the acquisition or retention of the users. And today there are really like no players in the Web3 space. And so if they will go fully into the Web3 space, big studio like Activision, let's say, with their World of Warcraft, they're basically not bringing new users in because there is a non-users in the Web3 gaming space, or very few, but compared to games like World of Warcraft, Fortnite, Roblox, it's really like 0. But on the other side, they can very well upset their current players, their current users. And that's what happened with Ubisoft. They tried exactly to put some NFTs in the game and everyone was just upset. So for them, really, it's more risky than the risk-reward ratio is really like unfavor for the NFTs. But on the other side, the smaller studios that are still big, for them, it could be an interesting opportunity. And here, exactly as you mentioned, like Tencent, they have a big blockchain part of their company right now. And they're much more in favor with their Epic Store to blockchain games than Steam is, for example, because again, Steam is dominating the market, no reason there. But for Tencent, it's interesting, and the Epic Store. And if I'm not mistaken, the next Final Fantasy should be on blockchain because their studio decided that they will step heavily into the blockchain. They already have some support chip. They invested in Engine blockchain, and they're really like finding a ways how to bring their games on the blockchain in next 1 to 3 years. And again, I think that this is like, it's not gonna be the Activision or EA games because they're the market leaders, but those like in the top 10, but on the second half maybe of the top 10, these will be the studios that we will see first trying to play with the NFTs and the whole blockchain. And possibly they could really success in bringing the players because they already have the user base there. But then they still need to figure out what's the kind of right level of blockchain you want to push on your players today. And again, yeah, as the guys mentioned, the user experience there, it's very important. You can't force everyone to just go and start creating MetaMask right away, or you know, like doing KYC on Binance just so they can buy NFT and play the game. It's just too difficult right now.
Yeah, and to add something more, I think personally that AAA publisher will come to Web3 well only when they feel the danger and feel that the user base are starting to like switch to the other projects with Web3 mechanics. Because, well, let's be honest, AAA publisher right now for the game industry are pretty much the same as traditional banks for traditional economy. And as the banks are refusing to like adopt decentralized finance, because it will lower their proceeds. And exactly so AAA publishers are a bit afraid about this decentralization, because right now they're basically trying to like change the already established mechanics like the loot boxes and try to sell them to the audience on the other way. So for example, the well-known case with the Ubisoft and the Quartz marketplace, which was like so-called NFT marketplace for in-game assets. But for real, for the users, it was like just another way to sell loot boxes. And also the gaming audience itself, well, in general, is also, let's be honest, is quite toxic when it comes to crypto, because like the major part of the gaming community doesn't know about crypto and sees the cryptocurrency as something that, well, makes their precious video cards cost more and more. And that's basically the way why they're also afraid. And we have like quite a tricky situation when the publishers, when the AAA big publishers don't want to adopt the new technology, and the users are afraid that the publisher will not go to decentralization and will try to like sell them once again what is already being sold. So it's like quite a tricky thing.
I really like the point with the graphic cards that the miners are making more expensive for the gamers.
And I have also some ideas about indie games studios' perspective. Actually, as I see right now, there are not too much AAA publishers or game companies right now in the Web3 space. Within maybe 3 years, they will publish a new product, but right now there is no any. But in the past, actually, there are lots of game companies also, as Eugene said, World of Warcraft is doing same things, actually, like current blockchain games. They are making, monetizing people, and also people are getting their monies against their playtime within the game. They are getting their assets, they are increasing it, and also they can sell from eBay, like Matt said. Even in Turkey, we were playing some kind of different MMORPG, which named Night Online. People just making trade with their cars, with the in-game assets, for example. People sometimes also getting murdered for their in-game assets. I saw this kind of problems in here. So still, when people find a niche in-game assets in Steam, they are just trying to sell their assets to another third-party markets. So this is a really a big legal problem. So crypto and blockchain is legalizing this space. It helps to make people peer-to-peer trading together. So it will solve lots of problem, as I guess. So AAA studios will gonna look at these technologies and integrate them to their products within 3 years, as I hope.
Yeah, interesting points. A lot has been said, of course. But what I think important in here is as well that sort of the player perspective. Yeah, as the example of World of Warcraft, but many games have shown that people really value things in these games, and it becomes more tangible by the day. Like people still have to wrap their head around this, but it has shown over the last couple of years that there are a lot of people that sort of see the value in this. They want to own these digital assets, but we're still early in it. But I think it will become more and more usual. I think small game developers will do it first, and then the bigger ones. But I think at a certain point, yeah, as I said earlier, there probably is a platform that provides a lot of services that makes this easy. And I'm not talking about us, but in general. There will be like these marketplaces that will not just be about buying and selling, but they will be something that is integrated into games, for example, and the players don't really have to think about it. So I think this sort of idea just has to mature. So you will need games to sort of use this more and more, and maybe there's like this really new big game that sort of gets that idea into mainstream. But only after that will these big AAA game companies implement it probably. But they will probably be ready for it. They will already have a division on it, but they just didn't sort of gave it their okay yet. But I think it will be very sudden. There will be some game that will suddenly make this very tangible for people, and also then the whole thing about buying and selling will be different, because I think people that play games are not only about trading. We still approach this from a sort of perspective of, yeah, I buy something and then I sell it. But I think people that play games, they just want to have a couple of cool things. They might trade for it, but they're also just buying stuff. Most people just pour money in and they keep it there. So I think it's also about people will really start owning and locking up funds in these digital assets. And that's also stability we need. We just need that speculation market. We just need people really getting invested in gaming. And I think it's coming, but it's going to take like 5 years or so.
Yeah, and to add to Jona's point, when you were telling about people trading the assets is not like the part of the game. Actually, I know people for example, that play FIFA and they don't play the game. They actually just trade the cards of the footballers. Just they spend hours just buying footballers, fighting, and it's the game for them. And I mean, like, imagine if those cards were the NFTs. Of course, it's not going to happen. EA will never never let people trade outside their marketplace, because it became the game in the game. They even have the app, that doesn't allow you to play the game, but it allows you to trade. And I know the people, they just trade the cards just for the fun of it. And there is another question in the chat, but I think we kind of answered it. Like the question is it possible that developers don't want in-game items to be traded outside of the game? I think it's obvious until they find the way to control or at least to benefit and to profit from all of those trades, because there's always the problem, right? That that now there are NFT collections that are banning certain marketplaces because they allow royalty-free selling, and obviously again, like EA or Take-Two, they will never allow the secondary market where they're not getting their fee from there. So I think until there is probably there might be like solutions where they're launching everything on their own blockchain, so they can always be in control. So it's kind of there will be like a sandbox freedom or something where people will kind of feel that that they're on the asset, but at the same time they will be inside this big glass wall thing that built by the game developers. So let's move to the next point. I think it's a major one. I'm not sure if I think it was in the Depredor year review document, and maybe it wasn't, but obviously it's something that everyone who builds a product on blockchain thinks about. It's the problem of scalability. So the question is, like, for example, just yesterday I was talking to the tech team of the AWS. It's Amazon cloud service. And they're actually approaching a lot of Web3 projects, about like moving their infrastructure to Amazon. Amazon is very open to the Web3 gaming, and they've mentioned like Fortnite is running on AWS, and we can only imagine, right, how many people. I think Fortnite has like 80 million people playing at the peak hours, like all at the same time, and I think at current stage, blockchain is not capable of doing that. I can't imagine a blockchain that can process 80 million people playing at the same time. So the question is, do you think like it is a problem at the current stage? Will it be a problem in the nearest future? Because like all of the like what is the biggest game? It's like Axie Infinity, and they build their own blockchain. I mean, it kind of built their own blockchain. It's But the thing is that they had to move it to a separate blockchain because they could, and they had like how many, like 600,000 people playing at peak hours. Now the biggest names, I think, it's Alien Worlds and Farmer's Tales and Splinterlands. But again, it's all about like 300,000 active daily wallets. So it's not like concurrent wallets. And I think it's all on Wax blockchain. And Wax blockchain is not feeling well. Let me tell you, because we are building one of our projects on the Wax blockchain, and it's not feeling good at the peak hours. You have like transactions not going through, the people getting the errors, and it's just a fraction of what the gaming, like traditional gaming, is using in terms of resources. So, what is your take on the scalability and the problems of it for the games, for the NFT games, obviously.
So
let's start with Jona. Let's start with Jona, because we did like the previous.
Yeah. I think the issue basically comes down to we have a single point of failure again. We have this one blockchain that then can not scale up to the services we need, especially in gaming. So what you see now is these additional layers, of course, that will make it easier. But I think sort of the bigger overarching movement is sort of we have to find a way to effectively decentralize blockchains so that you can use several, and maybe in a way that it's hard to attack, because you still don't want one of those blockchains to get attacked, that then the whole network fails. So I think we're not there yet, but it certainly cannot just be one blockchain. So there are certain solutions like extra layers. I think that works well for now, but in the future we need something way better. And it's not here yet.
Tolga?
Yeah, actually, I totally agree with Jona, but blockchains are not ready as a technologically because of their topologies also are different with the Web2 games topologies. And so totally on-chain games, chain-based games, have a really big problem when they scale further because of the transaction times, etc. Also to tracking their datas, also some kind of security problems, maybe some kind of refunding problems. We need to solve this problem at first stage. So being on chain, totally on chain, is a really big problem at this stage. Maybe 2 or 3 years later, it is not a problem at all. But now, to creating hybrid systems, both on-chain and off-chain systems, and creating this kind of topologies makes feels better on the studio sides, and also monetizing and your game, and also increasing your LTVs is easier right now to work if you create this kind of a product right now.
Ben?
Yeah, I can't agree more. We're still in the process, but it's all like the growing diseases, like the problem of growing up, but we're getting closer and closer, and there are such new technologies, for example, sharding and various level 2 solutions like rollups and so on and so on. So we're going, and let's wait like a couple of years, I think 1, 2, maybe 3 years, and we'll see the technology that will be much more usable for the end user itself. Because, well, I don't think that the player itself should like know that this game is going in the blockchain. The blockchain is just the technology, and we have to make it like as accessible as possible. So yeah, let's wait. It's just a wait.
Yeah, exactly. I can't agree more than, and I think this is really like super important. Blockchain is a technology. It's like the AWS, and the player of Fortnite, he doesn't care if the game is running on AWS or Azure, on Google Cloud or anything else. It's just something that's under the game. Players shouldn't really see, shouldn't really care about it. He's there for the game, and then what it unlocks. So I think, first of all, we are making a great progress with all of the L2s and different things like the shredding that can help us with the scalability of the blockchain itself. But then again, we can have even like million different blockchains, and one for a specific game, as long as there is some bridge between those blockchains or any other, again, like technical capability that can help me transfer my assets from Immutable to Avalanche to back to Ethereum and Binance Chain, whatever, Solana. I think then it really doesn't matter like what the single blockchain is capable of, because you can have so many different blockchains and the games running on these individual chains.
Just to reiterate, I guess, Jona's point in terms of a single blockchain solution we can't be relying on a single sort of a blockchain solution. And then to go back to Matt's point of sort of interportability between different blockchains, So I think when it comes to scalability for NFT games, their requirements, and especially how we look at scaling them will depend on what trade-offs we're willing to make when it comes to decentralization, security, among other factors. So we could obviously look at existing solutions like you guys said, layer 2, right? We could look at employing some sort of off-chain solutions, cross-chain solutions where we're, like Matt said, if there's a bridge between multiple blockchains and utilizing their transactional computational capabilities to address some of those bottlenecks. But ultimately, I think the answer overall is the same. It can't be just one blockchain. It has to be a number working in tandem and synchronicity to provide that computational power that would traditionally be associated with the Web2 solution like AWS, it's either the optimization of existing blockchain protocols and finding better and more efficient ways to manage those transactions by increasing block size or whatever it might be. But there is no solution sort of in the near term. It's something that has to be solved by the industry. There's possible approaches to the problem, but certainly not one solution fits all.
Yeah, so from what I've heard, I think the answer to my question is yes, there is a problem with scalability for NFT gaming, and I think it's obvious. And I mean, like, as someone who's working on building the games, it's something. Actually, for us, the only solution was running our own node. So I mean, like, we never planned to do that, but that's the only thing that solved everything for us. Just running our own. Actually, now we're running 3 nodes. Just to make sure that people don't care about, because when they start getting the errors because the blockchain is not responding, they don't care that the blockchain is not responding, and we can't just always say it's not our fault, it's the fault of the blockchain. They don't care, and they shouldn't care. We are providing the product, and we should make sure that it's working. And I mean, it can happen, when Amazon sometimes has downtime. Obviously, it's not as bad as with the blockchain, just because the amount of money they've invested in the infrastructure. But it still happens. It sometimes happens where there are major things happening with the cloud providers. There are some problems with accessing the bigger services. Okay, so let's discuss a couple of more questions. I think we have 8 more minutes, so let's talk about them briefly. So the next question: do you think that NFT gaming can be like the driver for adoption for blockchain in general? Because as we mentioned previously, the GameFi space was the most resilient to the bear market, which shows that a lot of people are here not just for the games; they're here just because they like the concept. So, do you think that NFT gaming can be a driver for general blockchain adoption? Because obviously, when you're playing the blockchain game, you need to learn how to do crypto, even if it's a tiny fraction. Let's start with Rytis.
Sure. So I think NFT games can certainly provide a tangible, maybe sort of a more accessible entry point into the world of blockchain technologies, especially when we're talking about cryptocurrencies or any of those digital assets, right? For many people who mightn't even know what the hell Web3 is or what cryptocurrencies are, or mightn't even have a desire to do. So I think it could be a low-hanging fruit and certainly a less frictionless way of introducing people into this space. And getting them interested or otherwise understand the technology by sort of gamifying it, by providing gamers a more fun, interactive experience, right? So whether we're talking about enabling player ownership, interportability, or those aspects, but the way we do that, I think, like we spoke previously, is by removing that friction of wallet creation, by having a single sign-on inventory system that will provide players the ability to, instead of having to create 20 or 30 different wallets when they're accessing different games, to simply have one portal that allows the registration or entry point between those different worlds or different ecosystems. And I think if we can do that, then it becomes exceptionally easy to introduce people to blockchain technologies through video games. And then we can introduce, obviously, the unique wallet count, as we spoke about, as a metric, increase transactional value, and just overall community engagement.
I don't think so. I don't think that it will be the one thing that will drive in the masses, because I think it's a great, nice to have feature for the games. And I think it's definitely here to stay in the gaming, because it's just really great to have it, the blockchain under the gaming assets, but it's not really solving the big pain point for the gamer. They are here to play the games, and blockchain is not really helping them in playing the games per se. So I think the first drivers of the mainstream will be something like real world assets, mainly ticketing, for example. That's a big issue that can be solved by the blockchain. Then something like cross-border transactions, for example. Again, something that's really painful and the blockchain can solve. But gaming is definitely, to me, something that will be here as well. It just might not be the one thing that will drive in all of the users in the first place.
Dan?
I think I can answer with a quote from one of the co-founders of the Sky Mavis, the developers of Axie Infinity. It was like Jeff Zhao, if I remember correctly, that crypto is far from mainstream adoption, but gaming can get us there. If you look closely at the cryptocurrency, there are like about 300 millions of crypto users for now, and despite this, amount is growing quite rapidly, but the estimated amount of gaming industry users already exceeds 3 billion. So it's quite obvious that the DeFi games, NFT games can bring the cryptocurrency to the mainstream adoptions for sure.
Yeah, actually, I agree with these kind of ideas with you guys, but on the other hand, NFTs are all helping, yes, on the adoption on the general community, but at the same time, also it's also making worse for the community some things, because it's abusing too much from the lots of projects. By the loss of projects in the last couple of the months. So the NFT naming on the customer sides, it's gonna be a problem. But we should see as a technology to NFT, because it's actually a technology that you can digitalize your assets and get the assets from your game to your wallets. For example, it can help to mint some kind of stuffs in chain, on chain. Also, you can export it. So if we can consider about as a technology, NFT will help to all of the products, also their adoption on the general, in general. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we're almost out of time, so I'll be quick. I think for sure NFTs will contribute to it, but I think gaming in general is the best way for people to get on the blockchain, because it is one of the most interactive mediums that's out there, and one of those mediums where people spend a lot of time and they invest a lot of time and also money into it. So it just makes sense. And I think about the part of it getting easier. Just imagine how easy it is now to log into all those accounts you have online, because you have like Google that helps you, or LinkedIn or Chrome. There will be something in a game where people will be able to just have their identity, and they will have it across games. They will have an NFT library. They can store it themselves. They can use some supplier that is trusted, but it will become much easier. And once you have that going, then suddenly you have these players that have these wallets, these portfolios full of NFTs. And games can create sort of special things for people that have this certain NFT from another game. So you can sort of start to compete for gamers, for example. So I think from sort of a attraction point of view, it's very strong for game developers to start sort of harvesting all this possibility. So yeah, I think it's very important. But for starters, we need a strong identity thing where it will become very easy. And then NFT is sort of the reason to get that identity and also to grow that identity.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, it could be a driver if we see major titles embracing it, because imagine like GTA introducing NFTs in their game, you would have hundreds of millions of people. But the funny thing is, like, for example, in one of our projects, when we introduced the login by Google authorization, we got so much hate from people saying, "Oh, it's so not Web3. Just bring me my wallet authorization. What's up with the email login?" Okay, I think that's it from us. We need to give stage to the next panel. Thank you for everyone for joining in. Thank you to HGC for having us. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Eugene.
Thank you. Goodbye.